Gautam, once again, thank you so much. I really hope I haven't hampered your creative space,
Part
especially.
of that creative space, so it's okay.
So, I know we are all in a interesting world right now. What's the lockdown like for you? Does this actually mean more creative space for you?
Well, I thought it would be, but not entirely. Some days were, I've said this before, some days were really good, some days were
Yeah,
blah,
yeah,
and some days the writing was really good, some days it was
mm,
really bad. Like when you read it the next day, it was reading like really, rubbish. So, at least to my liking. But generally, there's a sense of where are we headed, towards sort of a thing which is
yeah,
bothering.
yeah,
You want things to come back to normal.
mm,
Uh, at the same time, this whole time is for reflection and bonding and
yeah,
being with family and
yeah,
people and reconnecting with a lot of people actually,
correct.
and going back to basics sort of a thing. But at the same time, there is this, where are we headed towards, which I wish we had proper answers for.
Yeah,
uh, it looks good, and then suddenly, lots more cases and people not being safe and careful and all that
yeah,
you hear, and it
yeah.
bothers you. um, I don't know, I'm just hoping things come back to normal very soon right now. Yeah.
And the restrictions are easing out from today, is it? Or not really?
Which I don't know is a good thing. I know we're
Yeah,
moving towards solutions for an economic crisis and all that stuff, but
correct.
yeah,
Yeah,
numbers also spreading, and
yeah, yeah,
lots of word that this is peaking right now,
yeah,
maybe or two. So, and you may be worried about the older people at home and all that
indeed,
stuff. At
indeed.
the same time, you want your work to continue, but
Mm,
being out there and not being safe shouldn't hamper your work and the
yeah,
future, all that stuff, right?
yeah, yeah,
So it's been a mixed sort of 60 70 days, if you ask me.
yeah, yeah.
Emotion sort of 60 70 days.
True. Yeah, and Appa, yeah, he did a FaceTime call this morning, and he was saying 2.5 lakhs, number of cases in India as of today.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's very scary. And then he said the restrictions are going to be eased out from today, and shopping malls and everything are going to be open.
Yeah.
Yeah,
எல்லா இடத்துலயுமே ஏசி இல்லாம ஒர்க் பண்ணணும்னு சொல்லியிருக்காங்க. So I really don't know how many people will frequent all these places blazing hot outside in
yeah, indeed.
summer and all.
Anyway,
Ideally, I'm really hoping and imploring people will still be safe and cautious
yeah,
and clean and hygienic. Yeah.
yeah, indeed. Gautam, I have to admit that I have enjoyed all your interviews, especially your interviews with Bharadwaj Rangan. Has
Yeah.
been very insightful. I mean, he's a great guy, no doubt, and the questions that he asks and the answers that you give, and your answers, especially in all the interviews, I have absolutely admired because it's straight from the heart, and then there is no beating around the bush, which is what I have absolutely enjoyed. And then it's the same thing with a bunch of my friends. I told them that Gautam has accepted to come on the podcast, and then they said, we absolutely love his interviews. That's the best part about it. So I thought I should let you know. And thank you so much for being the way you are.
Thank you. People get me to talk and be myself. I think if I'm comfortable, then I talk. Yeah. So
Yeah. And I know that you ride a bike. I also ride a bike here. And yeah, and I know that you always get asked about your going to the cafe culture thing. You always have the habit of hitting the cafes and stuff like that. And I think you did that. You mentioned about that in the making video as well, right? Recently. And then, well, I have to be honest, I'm just as similar as you are, Gautam, because I love going to the cafes. Of course, I am a coffee person, but at the same time, I absolutely love, I don't know, it gives me some sort of a, I like the vibe when I go sit there with my laptop. I just work, I focus. Some days are shit, but other days are good. It just works. I could relate to it when you spoke about it. So have you traveled to Australia before?
yes, I have. Not as much as I would have liked to, but
Yeah.
my uncle and aunt lived there in Brisbane, and
Oh,
I've
really?
been there like once
Nice.
for a wedding in the family, and
Yeah.
stayed there for about 2 3 weeks, and we had a great time there. And I
Awesome.
always thought I should go back very soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Please do. And please do visit Melbourne. That's where I am. and I'll definitely take you for a ride in the famous I Love ARR car.
Sure.
So, Gautam, first of all, congrats on your short movie. I think it's a huge success. A lot of people absolutely loved it. I loved it too. And I loved it personally, even selfishly, because it had Sir's music in it. And his hum towards the end did some magic.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I mean, was that your briefing in terms of Sir do something, or it was on his own?
So I think firstly, it's very sweet of him to have actually accepted to do,
Yeah,
to do music for that short film per se. It was. I always ask, and I don't really go after him,
yeah,
but I ask, and then I wait for him to say yes or no. And likewise, when I finished this and I put it out there, and I told him, "Sir, I've done this. So would you, okay, do the music for this?" And he said, "Yes, it looks good. We'll do it." He said, and I
nice.
just said, "All I can hear is just your voice running right through." Is all that I said. Uh, but then, I always give him a very whatever I feel sort of a thing, and I say, but completely
Yeah,
your call, whatever you want to
yeah,
do, sir.
yeah.
You know best, but I just hear your voice right through is all I said,
Mm,
and came up with that where it actually mattered finally. So yeah,
right.
I'm happy
Yeah,
to
it
be.
was great, magical, and of course, even the movie itself was good too. Initially, I was thinking, okay, why is Simbu doing this or saying this? I was a bit confused, and then I spoke about that with one of my friends, and he said, no, no, it's because Trisha gave him that space to do that. So we had this little debate between the two of us, and then I watched your interview with Bharadwaj Rangan later, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to wait until the actual movie comes out to answer some of my questions. So
No, see, you don't have to really explain things to people for them to get it. If they don't get it, they don't get it. That's all it is.
yeah,
Uh, but if they get it, they get it. So yeah, I think in retrospect, I was just, Bharadwaj wanted to talk to me and a few other people wanted to talk to me
yeah,
about the whole filming process of during the lockdown and
yeah,
why I did stuff.
yeah,
So in the course of that, I ended up also explaining a few things. But then I also realized that I wrote it with the thought that people should talk about it. There should be
mm,
discussion.
mm,
It is edgy stuff. It is on the line stuff. We've not crossed the line with
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
Nothing wrong in crossing the line. Also, I'm not the founder of like I keep saying, some moralistic values
yeah,
and stuff like that.
yeah,
But honestly, it was edgy stuff which was going to be discussed and talked about, and that's what I wanted.
yeah,
And very clearly, it was only between two people who are in that space with each other.
correct,
Not
correct,
that she's given him all the space, but there's somewhere one space that she's given him that he can be in, and
yeah,
she knows how to handle it, and he will be like that. The
yeah,
Karthik from 10 years ago will be this Karthik now. There's no two ways about it. Is all I thought.
correct.
And it's my Karthik and my Jesse. So if
Of
people don't like
course.
it, they don't watch the sequel. Absolutely, we're very happy about it. I'll be very happy if they watch it also. So yeah.
I'm sure everyone's going to watch it. And I liked it. I mean, it was great, no doubt about it at all.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm very okay with people
correct.
having a problem with it also because it is
Yes.
meant to do that. It is meant
Yeah.
to evoke certain feelings in people. And Simbu did tell me, brother, இடத்துல இப்படி பேசுவாங்க இது பரவாயில்லையா. Trisha also asked me, Gautam, are we sure we're doing this? And Rahman sir also sent me a sort of a meme which came just after release saying BTech Tandi Varuvaya and all that stuff. So we always knew this is going to be in that sort of a
Yeah.
zone. And
Yeah.
we're very sure about it, and we did it the way we wanted it to. Yes, I think if it wasn't COVID times, we would have shot it much more interestingly. I would have had a full team
Correct.
working to shoot much better, but it was just me, Simbu, Trisha. There was
Yeah.
nobody else.
That's
So,
it.
so we did our best within the
I,
circumstances.
I absolutely love the creative aspect of it because I mean, you could have always just been at home, just doing your writing stuff and not having to worry about anything else, but you still decided to do something beyond that is what I really appreciate about. And so thank you for doing it. And I recently was speaking to Alphonse Joseph. You might know him.
Yes, yes, of
And
course.
yeah, he's a very good friend of mine. We became friends in Trichy in the month of Feb when I traveled to India for AR's concert in Trichy when I went there to meet him. We hit off really well. We became great friends, and then he was obviously his song Aromale killed the concert. It was like he was out of the world with his performance. And of course, the band members were also kind of teasing him, the way he screams out Aromale and all that. And then, of course, that was a career defining song for him. To be honest, no one knew him before that, and now everyone knows him for that. And of course, he's extremely popular now. And then he still sings the same song in every concert, and he kills it. Everyone loves it. I I was going to ask you. Well, I mean, before I ask you that, I was told that this was actually going to be a surprise for you, right? It was not really in the script before.
Yeah, both the songs were actually Mandipaya and Arumale
Wow.
were situations, yes, but then I really didn't know what to do with it. Mandipaya was there. There was a moment where Karthik finally gets to meet Jessie. Her wedding is called off because of her, and they spend like a moment outside her room in the middle of the night at the risk of being caught and stuff like that. And she tells him that she's always been in love with him from the day she saw him, and she said no to marriage, hoping that she can get to be with him. And then he leaves from there with this buzz, with this glow, with this feeling that he's all set for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And we did a song, so that's all I had. And then Rahman sir said, "Okay, we'll do something." And then without telling me, he called Tamare over and he put together Manipaya, including the idea of Manipaya. Like girls saying, I know I kept you at bay for so long, will you forgive me for that sort of a thing. Aromale was again very bizarre because I remember, and I still have these mails and all that. There's a mail from him that said, where are you? What are you doing and stuff like that. So, and he came on a call. So I said, sir, I'm here in Chennai. Okay. There was a silence. Then he said, LA Vandranga.
What was that?
LA Vandranga.
Oh, really? What?
Yeah.
Oh,
I said, sir, LA Vandranga, Varamudima. I've recorded some very, interesting blues guitars here with one very, proper guitarist, with a nice guitarist and all that. So, Varamudima, he asked me. So I just left and I took a flight and I left. I reached there. I waited for like a couple of days and then I met him at the studio. And he played that for me. He played the whatever he'd recorded for Aromale, and he said, "Let's get this done with Malayalam lyrics in the song because Jesse's obviously from Kerala, and we'll get Kaidapuram to write the lyrics, and we'll get somebody interesting to sing the song and all that." So and it was a situation that I had, and I developed on it because I thought it'll be a road trip now to get to sort of write and unwind and take her, completely into himself and all that stuff. So that's how Aromale was born. And like you said, Rahman told me there's a singer called Alphonse. He's a music director from Kerala, and I'll get him to. It was completely Rahman sir's call, idea, everything. So I just sat back and picked it up like a devotee would. That's all. Just sat back and picked it up. That's it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I can't believe the kind of song it turned out to be because it's almost 10 years or 11 years old now and it still rocks. It's turned out like a cult and still plays every day. And every time it plays, I take a picture and, a little clip and send it to Alphonse and he gets very happy.
No, the thing is, I think the whole album itself, Rahman sir kept telling me that I know you worked with Harris and you had so many hits and all that. So I'm a little tense and edgy that I have to. I said, sir, just let's just make music. Please don't say all this. I said. Yeah. So he said, no, it's very quirky music. So I'm very happy you like it. Yeah. And that you agreed to these tunes and I said, sir, I'm not. I didn't do this because I can't ask you for another tune or I can't tell you that I don't like this. Whatever I heard from, I remember Hosanna and Omana Penne were the first two songs that were composed. Yeah. And the minute I heard it, I just grabbed it. And it was almost like after we discussed the situation and the mood and all that, he had almost set it up 3/4 in his voice. Wow. With just blase coming in here and there, and then we needed lyrics from Tamare. Yeah. So I got the entire idea of the song very clearly from him. And it straight away touched a chord in me, and that's all I looked for. Does it touch a chord? Does it make me feel like, I'm happy to be here, sort of a thing. And these songs did that. Very specially. And I just picked it up and I just filmed it. And he kept saying, "I'm so happy you picked these songs. You picked these tunes, and that you didn't not reject them and all that." So there's no way I would have, because it
Wow.
straight away touched a chord on me. Yeah.
And did you actually film it with the scratch versions or it was a complete song? Just curious, that's
No,
all.
no. I think both Hosanna and Omanapenne were about 95%
Wow.
done, 90% done songs. So I had
Yeah.
a fairly big idea about what the
Awesome.
song would be like and all that.
Right.
And then there were just some embellishments once the songs were ready to be put out from
Yeah.
his side, where in production he added a
Yeah.
few things,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the length of the song was fixed after seeing the song visuals and all that stuff.
Mm.
So yeah.
It's amazing, Gautam, because Vijay Prakash was also there on the podcast just a week ago, and then he said what Hosanna means to him, right? And now we have Alfonsia who praises Aromale. And how do you feel when a song like this or songs like this have become a career highlight for certain individuals? You as the creator of the
No,
world.
I think more than saying creator, or I wouldn't agree to the word creator, because somewhere I am just the person who inspires, and that is my job. And I do that with every technician that I work with,
Yeah.
and not just with music. My job is to uh, set it up firstly in my head.
Mm,
I need to like it, and then I take it to the composer. I
mm,
take it to the cameraman. I
mm,
take it to the costume designer. I take it to the writer.
mm.
And I take it to the lyricist.
Yeah.
So I inspire them.
Yeah.
I put it out there, and I don't force my thoughts on them, but I say this is what I want. This is ideally what it is. This is the mood. This is the genre, and this could be the visuals,
Yeah.
and this is the probably the tone. This is what they're wearing. All that is described and put out to them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I just sit back to see what they can give me. And what comes is magic always. So I'm happy to be there as somebody who's inspired, and that much of work I do. If that work I don't do, and I can't just go and tell Rahman sir, can I have a love song here? I need to give you much more than just two words saying love
Of
song.
course. Of
And
course.
he asks you so many questions also. So you need to be ready. There's a lot of homework that I do. There's a lot of work that I do when I write a script, and especially when I take it to a composer, especially somebody like Rahman sir. You have to be really abreast of everything, because he's going to ask you a lot of questions about
Yeah.
what is the mood, what is the flavor, what do you want, what kind of lyrics, how do
Yeah.
you want the song to begin,
Wow.
and he asks you all that, and only then he starts to compose, or whenever he sends you something, you realize that he's gone, thought about it, and composed something and sent it back to you.
Right.
Like Talipogade was like that. I
Yeah.
described it as a song that happens in an accident
Yeah.
situation, and then they're flying in the air, and as they hit the ground, the song is playing, and this is
Yeah.
like so he said, I see a continuous loop kind of a song.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
work something out. He said,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then about 3 4 days later, he sent me this Talipogade's tune in his voice, without lyrics, but just the
Yeah.
like that, in his voice.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
still have all that. That's magic.
Yeah.
And to understand that song, and to make the lyricist understand
Yeah.
the word, where the words will come, was so difficult. But we spent so much time doing that. And he laughed so much when I told him how finally we cracked it. So he's the creator. I'm just the one who inspires the creator. That's all it is. To
I
answer your
know you're
question.
being modest here, but
No, honestly, not. No, no. I'd say that even with the youngest of composers that I work with, or
right.
even the newest of composers that I work with,
Yeah.
it's so I've created something, yes, but within that I have to give space for other creators to come in, so that my creation stands apart, or makes sense to me.
Um, so of course you sit back and wait for them to give it to you, but you haven't had instances where you had a second thought about something that you
No,
just got from someone?
no, I've said this many times in lots of interviews, and who I've
Yeah.
spoken to, young people who come to me. It's just been a magical journey so far, because
Wow.
somewhere I think identifying who I want to work with
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
all the work.
Yeah.
Finally, that's it.
Yeah.
Because once I get there, honestly, I'd like to
Yeah.
use the word blessed, because I've always come away from there with the first tune that I've heard, which
Right.
has struck a chord in me.
Mm.
I could have asked Raja sir for more tunes. He
Yeah.
himself kept asking me, "Shall we change this? Shall we change that?" But I said no, because I liked what I heard.
Yeah.
I was sitting there with Rahman sir, with Harris, with Raja sir on the composing sessions, and whatever I inspired them with, and finally when the tune came out, I was happy. It
Wow.
struck something in me. I felt something about it, and I thought, okay, this is it. So it's always been the first tunes. I don't know, 70, 75 songs and over
Yeah.
so many films.
Yeah.
They've all been first tunes that have come to me.
Wow. Amazing.
I remember Rahman sir asking me, "Are you sure? Shall we go for another track instead of Tali Pogan?" I said, "No, sir. It works perfectly for me. This is magical. So let's just go ahead with this."
So do you believe in the gut feeling then in terms of, yep, this is it?
Everything is that.
Right.
Everything is gut. It's on a whim. It's on an impulse.
Yeah.
It's instinctive. All that. And then see, for me, everything is experimental. Like I had no idea about you, and
Yeah.
you had no idea how this conversation is going to go, right?
Yeah.
But somewhere your mail to me and your messages to me, it struck a chord. That's all it was. And I thought, and trust me, honestly, I'm saying I get a lot of these.
Of
It's
course.
not like I pick and I sit every day, and I don't want to put myself out so
I
much
can
also.
imagine. Yes.
But something about you, and I said, okay, let's just do this. And it's going well. It's experimental for me. I have no idea. I mean, it could have turned out to be a disaster. The way you could have asked me some really nasty questions, and I would have been completely, saying something silly or whatever. But it's going well. So now,
Thank you.
when we put this out, I'm saying there is a finally it's going to go out to a few people,
Correct.
and both of us are going to sit back to figure out if they like it or not.
Correct.
That is up to them. It's not up to us.
Correct.
Because we have done it with all our heart. That's all it is.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
everything is like that. Everything in life, every step, the bike that I've bought, I think, my friends, my relationship, my family, everything is like that. Everything is based on I feel good, so I'm here.
Amazing. Yeah, I can actually relate to a lot of things with what you just mentioned, but I will keep that for the off the record conversation towards the end of the podcast. I'll stop the recording and tell you about it. However, I was just keen to know, of course, Gautam, I would like to apologize in advance if I don't touch upon topics other than ARR related.
No, no,
So,
no, no.
yes,
No
so
worries.
don't, so no
No, no. Also,
offense.
I know this is ARR
Yeah.
related, but in my conversation, obviously there'll be
Of course,
other
of
stuff
course,
I might
of
also
course, of
mention. So
course.
feel free to edit out whatever you want.
No,
No
no, no,
worries.
no, no, not at all, not at all. It's just that my conversations may not lead towards
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other
yeah.
guys that you may have worked with. So that's all I'm saying. So no
Yeah,
offense in any way. So I was just going to ask you, what's the jamming session like between you and AR when you sit together? It can be any song. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. Do you remember any of those moments where I know for the fact that Sir has an amazing sense of humor, and I was just keen to know if there were any instances that comes to your mind during the jamming sessions where he cracked you up, and it could be anything.
No, see, for me, um, I'd like to sum it up in one word.
Yeah.
It's or maybe two words. It's spiritual and it's soulful. It's like a
Yeah.
journey
Wow.
being there with him.
Yeah.
And it's not. I'm not saying this because of the kind of person that he is.
Yes.
That's what happens when you go there and
Correct.
sit with him.
Correct.
Very, it's a very natural process.
Yeah.
That's what happens. There's no other discussion about other stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
It's only about work. It's only
Yeah.
about that song, or it's only about the film, the mood of the film, the story,
Right.
and maybe something related to the cast,
Yeah.
screenplay,
Yeah.
crew,
Yeah. Yeah.
me, him. That's
Yeah.
all it is. There's
Okay.
never any discussion about anything else. And
Right.
there's been always been so far, with the films that I've
Yeah.
worked with him and
Yeah.
every other occasion.
Yeah.
There's always can we meet? Can we do this? Okay, give me some time. I'll let you know. And then there's a call from him saying, come over.
Wow.
Okay. And then once we get there, you're transported into his world
Yes.
and so beautifully and naturally.
Yeah.
And I look forward to that. So
Yeah.
nowadays not nowadays, I think from the time I did Vinitandi, I've come to a certain after the experience also, I've come to a decision that if Rahman sir says no, then I'll move on to another composer.
Right. Okay.
I will never force him to do a film. I
Right.
leave it to him. I'm not going to stand there, for hours because I respect his
Yeah.
work, his privacy, the way
Yeah.
he thinks, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I cannot be from not asking him.
Yeah. Of course.
So you can imagine after Vinay Thandi, every film that I've done, except Nadness in Idol, which didn't
Yeah.
have music,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've asked him for that film.
Wow.
And the films that he said yes to are the ones that we did. And there are films that we are going to do, which he said yes to, but I haven't put it out together as yet.
Awesome. Great.
Okay, so I look forward to that experience. I want to be in that zone.
Yeah.
And There's no other time that I will go and just sit there and hang out. I would not do that because I know
Right.
what kind of work happens there, what his
Yeah.
timings are, how much he
Mm.
works, and all that stuff.
Mm.
So it's very respectful of his space, sort of a thing.
Right.
But when he calls me, there's never an opportunity that I've missed so far.
Awesome.
And in fact, he's not the regular guy who will text you in advance, or
Correct.
there's no WhatsApp or anything like that. Something that you can always look up and wait for.
Yeah.
A random call suddenly out of the blue, or an email which you have to keep checking all the time,
Correct.
keep refreshing to see if he sent you something. And very unexpectedly, this call will come. Even now during Karthik Dial Say the End time,
Yeah.
when I put the film out to him and he started working on the music, his team was telling me, sir's working on it, he'll finish it tonight. So every night I was waiting for the music to come, staying awake, refreshing my email, without even knowing that he's going to send it to me, whether by email or whether he's going to be transferred. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So 5 days later, one email comes in by saying, it's done, this is the version, please listen to it, let me know if you like it.
Wow.
So that's how it is. There's no, and that whole way, that whole journey, is magical. There's
Wow.
something that it doesn't irritate you, it doesn't bother you. It's a beautiful way.
Wow.
And I enjoy that. While composing, while sitting with him, there's a
Yeah.
lot of cracking up, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
yes, there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of
Yeah.
laughter,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of work.
Yeah. Of course.
He,
Yeah.
he likes my combination with Tamare, so he will insist on Tamare being there.
Nice.
And then whenever I've told him that Tamar is not available, we've also worked with other lyric writers and all that. We worked with
Right.
Karki also.
Right.
So and he knows somewhere what my strengths are, so he keeps insisting on that.
Mm.
And he'll ask me, and he'll be very interested on asking me what you want the song to be different about in terms of the lyrics. Give me some hook. So all of us will brainstorm on a hook.
Wow.
And if you go there with a fixed release date, he's going to laugh because he's going to tell you, Adanna Bamata Mudiyada, and he'll ask you. And he'll give you various examples of it's not etched in stone for things to be changed, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I've had a great time there, and
Yeah.
it comes under the umbrella of a very spiritual and soulful journey.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Great. Um, I have to actually ask you one of the questions which was sent through by my very good friend from Sydney. Her name is Padmalata, and she said she's a huge fan of yours, by the way, Gautam. And then she said, "Sir, how do you explain your vision so beautifully to your music directors and specifically to AR?"
Yeah, so that's the part of the answer was from the previous
Yes.
that we talked about. There's so much of work that goes in my head
Correct.
and on my laptop or my paper,
Of course.
because I know if that's not done, then the song is not going to turn out special.
Mm. Mm.
Now, I don't want to find fault with anything that anybody has done, but some songs don't turn out special no matter what.
Yeah.
It's about the time, it's about the
Yeah.
inspiration, it's about everything that falls in place.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of attributes to that. There's a lot of factors that go into
Yeah.
that. But I've
Yeah.
just been lucky, I think, and
Right.
blessed that I've been able to communicate the vision that I had
Yeah.
in a big way. And I just don't give up with a love song or a sad song or a travel song. There's a lot of detail that goes into a bike journey. These are the clothes
Yeah.
that they're wearing. This is the mood. Initially, she's not even putting his hand on his shoulder,
Yeah.
and then slowly, that sort of comes in. There's comfort levels that they've sort of achieved or reached with each other, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then at one point she starts to open up and she sings. So this was Rasa Ali, and then he
Yes.
said, so while we were talking, and he got the entire idea. He said, what if they're on a bike, Gautam? I remember Tamare
Mm.
sitting, and he said, what if they're on the bike, right? And what if he's reaching out or talking to this imaginary bird that's right above,
Yeah.
and there is this relative speed thing between the two of them, like who will go faster?
Wow.
And he also said, you don't have to shoot the bird or anything, Gautam, but it's just a imaginary,
Yeah.
he just looks up and he's
Yeah.
talking, and because his girl is by his side.
Yeah.
And that's how Rasali came up.
Yes.
So yeah, and how Mandipaya came up. I just explained
course,
that to you.
of course,
This
of
concept
course.
saying at this point, maybe it's time for this girl to say, I'm sorry I kept you at bay.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm sorry, but don't even think about it and stuff like that. So it was like the idea of the song was very conversational sort of thing. And he grabbed from that and he takes it forward. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of work that goes into inspiring these
Of course.
two people.
Of course. Amazing. It's a great answer. I'm sure she's gonna love it. Gautam, I was gonna ask you, or rather admit the fact that when AYM released it was absolutely magical. The tracks were so sensational, and me being a hardcore AR fan, the way I would listen to any track, spec- more so specifically when it's yours and Sir's combination, when it releases, I go track by track. So let's say if the album had 5 tracks, I start with track number one, and it goes into that infinite loop for about a week and a half or 2 weeks. And then, not that I get over it, but now at that point, I'm sort of ready to go to the second track because I don't want to lose out on the magic or the charm that the subsequent track might have. So, as another example, 99 songs released, as you know, just before the lockdown, and that had 14 tracks. And I said this to Sir as well during the podcast, and he was like, "Oh wow!" And he was just shaking his head. It took me 9 weeks until I got to 14th track, but that's me, me being crazy, or at the same time I try and listen to absolutely everything in the track, and then it's in my mind. I can tell you which sound came from where, and I look forward to that when they perform live, and then I get disappointed if that sound doesn't come. But that's me. I was just keen to know or curious to know, when Sir gives you the track, how many times do you listen to, because you or your visuals are already planned before he gives you the
Uh,
track?
I was just going to say the same thing,
Yeah,
so whatever you've done, whatever you do as a listener or as a fan,
yeah,
two things I was going to say. One, I've done that when we used to listen to Rahman sir's music from the time
correct,
Roja came out.
correct.
Every album that came out was with so much of anticipation that we'd go
Yeah,
pick it up.
yeah,
And I'd lose to you in this competition because I wouldn't listen to it the number of times that you're saying, but I would listen at least 5 times each track.
yeah.
I wouldn't move to the second track till I hear the first track for about 5 times at least.
Wow. Okay.
So I know my friends at that time, there were no mobile phones and stuff. I'm talking
Mm,
about 95, 96,
mm,
97,
mm,
98.
mm.
They'd come up to me and say, "We've heard," I said, "No, don't talk to me about that. I've only heard 2 songs." And they'd be like, "Why haven't you listened to the whole album?" I said, "No, I'm living with those 2 songs. Give me some
Yeah,
time. Let me
yeah.
move on." So by the end of the evening, when you're playing cricket or when you're meeting your friends and stuff, like they already tell you they've already moved on to all the 5 songs and discussing songs. So I used to do that.
Yeah.
I do what you're doing now when I get the song from Rahman sir, even
Right.
though I have a concept and the visuals in
Yeah,
place.
yeah,
That concept and visuals are only about 50 to 60%.
yeah,
Once a song comes, you have to break each line,
yeah,
each verse, each stanza, each note,
yeah.
sometimes even each bar, sometimes even the change in structure and all that. You have to
Yeah.
write shorts for all that, right?
Right.
So I listen to it, and people who know me and who worked with
Mm.
me know that the headphone is constantly on, and I listen to it so many times. Like there's no, it goes into a loop, like you said.
Right.
It
Right.
just goes into a loop, and I keep listening. I'll stop, I'll rewind, I'll come back, I'll write something. And every time I listen to a song, a visual will open up. And I think
Awesome.
that's why if you look at songs like Hosanna, Omana Penne
Yeah.
Manipaya, there's one very clear quality about the visual. There's one
Correct.
structure about the visual
Correct.
that is
Correct.
that I was very sure of.
Yeah.
Even Unbeloved, which was shot in New York,
Yeah.
I was very clear about the shots, and especially
Yeah.
when you're shooting abroad and all
Yeah.
that. Because I've listened to these songs so many times once I've got the track.
Yeah.
And the advantage here is you get only one song at a time, right?
Yeah.
So by the time you sit on the other song, it's about 2 to 3 weeks
Yeah.
later, or
Yeah.
maybe even 5 days later. And in
Yeah.
those 5 days, I've listened to the song 1,000 times. And
Right.
I've written the song down, I've played it to a few people.
Mm.
I've played it in my car, I come
Mm.
back and I listen to it at home.
Mm.
I played it at home to my mother and my wife and my kids. And also, this is the journey with a Rahman sir song.
Awesome.
That's my story. Yeah,
That's
actually.
great. Since you mentioned, of course, we've all grown up listening to Sir's songs, and what are some of the songs that comes to your mind? Doesn't have to be yours; it can be yours. Top five
Yeah,
songs.
yeah, because I just came to the picture now, right? And I have like
Yeah,
10 songs with him, with the Hindi version and everything,
yeah, yeah,
15 maybe. And
yeah,
obviously, I directed Semmori, so
yeah,
that's 60. So I
yeah.
can give you a count, in my hand like that. But obviously, after Roja came, after
Mm,
Roja,
mm,
for me, where I completely got AR's music and I was like wanting to listen to more was I think
yeah,
when Dil Se came out to a large extent.
yeah,
I think Dil Se Re in his voice
yeah,
and the way he had sung it and way the production was handled and
yeah,
everything was like I know I went into a crazy loop with that song forever. Like
yeah.
anytime in the night you wake me up and ask me to sing Dil
Mm,
Se, I can sing Dil Se, with the instrumentation, with the way the BGMs change and all
Wow.
that stuff. So I heard the Hindi version first, then only the Tamil version. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I got really stuck with that album to a large extent, and
Yes.
obviously a Mani Sir Rahman combination was like a crazy combination.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
there's no way I'd miss that. That'll be 15 times each song, and then move on to the next song, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think Dil Se was one album that I really got stuck to a large extent. And then and then I worked on a film called Minsara Kanavu with Rajiv sir,
Yeah.
right? I was the assistant
Yeah.
director on
Yeah.
that film.
Yeah.
And we used to wait in the studios. We used to wait in Rajiv's office
Mm.
when he'd bring the songs. Like every time a song was recorded and produced, he'd bring it and he'd play it for us in a cassette
Right.
player
Yeah.
system.
I was just going to
And
ask.
all the 10 ADs and the whole group would sit and listen to that song. So that
Yeah.
was like so till that there was no connection. Now there's only like a 6 degrees of separation sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Till that you're just a fan, you're a layman, you're an audience, you're a
Yeah.
listener, you're listening to his music.
Yeah.
And then now comes a moment where you're separated by a cassette that actually has Rahman sir's hand on it, fingerprint on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that his fingerprinted cassette, you're actually putting it into a system and you're pressing the play button for people to listen to. So there was like they were getting closer to each other sort of a thing. And likewise, when Minnale happened, I went and asked him to do the music for that film. I
Awesome.
remember waiting there for a couple of hours, and then somebody said, this boy's been waiting there to meet you.
Yeah.
So he came up to me very quickly and said, sorry, tell me. I said, no, I worked with Rajiv sir, and I'm doing his first film of mine, and I'd like you to do the music for the film. He straight away said, Gautham, I think it'll take me a little more time. I'm very busy right now, some separate films are on, so time will come. So I said, no worries, sir. Even then, I didn't want to stand there even a second longer to force him to listen to me, because I knew that space is something else, and I need to respect that space, and I will get my turn at some point.
Yeah.
And that happened.
Awesome. Great. And you just reminded me of something. You said, Rahman sir would have touched the cassette and it's his hands and stuff like that. I've been here in Australia for the last 20 years, and prior to coming here, I'm not sure if you know much about Bangalore. There was a music store called Planet M Music on road. So, right. And at the entrance of the store, there is a handprint of Sir's thing saying A.R.Rahman. When the store first opened up, I was so astonished. So, it must be Sir's handprint then. So I used to go time and again to that store just to place my palms on that and just to get a feel that I've just touched Sir. And I used to do all this crazy stuff in the past, but that's me, of course. That store doesn't exist anymore, and and
none of those stores, there's no music stores anywhere actually. We used to go and record these tapes and CDs from so many stores across town. That doesn't exist anymore. And now, at the touch of a button, you can get any music that you want. So,
just out of curiosity, do you miss those days?
I miss those days. I'm just going to tell you that I really miss those. I don't think anything should be available so easily. You need to, not fight, but you need to get there. You have to wait to get something beautiful. Nothing should come to you so easily is what I feel generally.
Because I have always loved
complaining, but
I've always loved looking at the inlay cards, reading the credits, and that's how you actually know who are the guys who have been behind the scenes working on that project and stuff like that. You don't get that anymore. I do miss out too. And of course, since you mentioned, of course, you worked with Rajiv in the past, right? Is it fair to say that he was your mentor?
I don't want to say no, because that's not being fair to him. Although if you ask me, I learned by watching Mani Sir films to a large extent. Completely analysis, writing down scenes in a book that I used to take to the theater. The second time I watched every film of his. The first time was just as a fan and audience. Second time was to learn. And then the 15th time was to learn and all that stuff. So every film of his was like that. But I trained under Rajiv sir, and I learned the actual process of making a film under him. So.
Right. Okay. And of course, he must be really proud of you, Gautham, the way you've achieved a number of things and the things that you're going to achieve in the future.
Oh yes, he does. I think he keeps whenever a film comes out, he calls me and he says, keep the flag flying and all that. Even as recent as Karthik dials at the end, he
Yeah.
called me immediately and he said, I really loved it. I don't know if there's a Jesse in your life, but I'm there in your life, so don't worry, everything will be okay and all that stuff. So I remember
Was
that conversation. Just happened like 2 3
great.
weeks ago.
Gautam, we've come almost to the end of the podcast. And I mean, lastly, before I close it out, I was just going to ask you, Sir does get a link whenever a podcast episode comes out. And I do know that he does watch it, but you and I both know that he will
Yeah,
watch
yeah,
it in
yeah.
a fast forward mode because he doesn't have much time. I was going to ask if there's anything that you want to tell Sir, just in case in that fast forward thing, he actually stops at, okay, Gautam says this.
No, I again would like to take the opportunity to thank him for doing, something as small as Karthik dials at the end. It
Yeah,
shows what he's made of.
yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And he knows I'd made this in a very good way,
yeah, of
but
course.
I look forward to working with him. And only if he says no, I will move on to somebody else in any film of mine. So I've
Awesome.
not said this to him directly, but I'm using this opportunity to say this to him.
Of
And
course.
it's no pressure, it's no compulsion. I know how he picks on every film, and I know there's a thought process and maybe even a spiritual process about how he goes about every film, and I'm really okay with that. I respect
Mm,
that, and I love that. So there's no compulsion or pressure, but
yeah.
I look forward to working with him on every film. And if he says no, I'll move on to making music with somebody else. Yeah,
And he goes with his instincts too, doesn't he?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, awesome.
yeah.
Gautam, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. As much as I would have loved to keep the podcast going for hours and hours and hours, keep talking about things, but I don't want to hamper the creative process that you might be in because we're all looking forward to watching something new that you're going to come up with in the future. So, with that said, yeah, we have come to the end of the podcast. I have to really thank you from the bottom of my heart for making it happen for me. And it's more like a tribute that I'm doing to Sir, and then almost everyone who has worked with him or associated with him in some shape or form have been coming forward to support this initiative. And it's what I initially thought was going to be more like a musical podcast that just talks about Sir's music or celebrates his music. What it has turned out to be now is like a speaking autobiography. That's what it has turned out to be. And I'm extremely honored because, as I said, I'm just a fan and I just ask. And you honored that and you came on the podcast. That itself makes me feel extremely proud and I'm so honored. Thank you so much once again.
No, you made me feel really comfortable and happy to contribute in a really small way to your endeavor. And like I said, you have the magic three letters, behind you, in front of you, and all over you, ARR. So uh, we are we are here to support those three letters. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gautam.